How do you trust him, sir? How do you trust this son of yours who every single time you see him in the last few years, everything gets leaked?
Nobody wants them here except sort of marginally the king who wants to see his grandchildren. Not a single person in Britain apart from the king.
This is what she thrives on. This is the water, the oxygen to this person. Because when you've never had fame for your talent, if you can just be written about, then that's wonderful.
They don't trust them. Period. They just don't trust them. I mean, Harry to them is like Brooklyn Beckham is to the Beckham.
Well, the word is same treatment this time. If they do get this audience with the king, they're going to be strip searched, not strip shirts. They're going to be searched, bodies searched, and they're not going to be allowed to take in phones.
They'll have to sign NDAs, probably.
Recording devices. I mean, this is extraordinary, isn't it?
Royal comebacks are supposed to create excitement, but this one reportedly came with a much colder atmosphere. After years of public interviews, explosive accusations, documentaries and family tension, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle once again found themselves at the centre of attention in Britain, and critics were quick to argue that the mood surrounding them had changed dramatically. For years, Harry and Meghan have built a new public life away from royal duties. They have shared their version of palace life, discussed private family conflicts, signed major media deals, and launched business projects of their own.
The whole world knows this attempt at a reconciliation, in quotation marks, with the royal family is a desperate attempt by a couple that has failed in an epic, humiliating fashion.
So when Harry comes back, particularly with his family, it's just one long right royal snub from the rest of the royals, and that's embarrassing to say the least.
But every public move has also brought another wave of criticism, and some royal watchers believe the couple eventually reached a point where their relationship with Britain became almost impossible to repair. That is what made their reported return to the royal spotlight so interesting. The question was not simply whether people would welcome them. The bigger issue was whether years of controversy had permanently changed how the public and the royal family itself viewed the Sussexes.
Today I am showing you explosive proof of how the BBC lied to me. That is our national broadcaster that is paid for by us, and they lied to protect Harry.
Nobody wants them here except sort of marginally the king who wants to see his grandchildren. Not a single person in Britain apart from the king wants them anywhere near this country. It's going to be humiliating for them. They are going to get the frosty reception from hell, aren't they? Here's the answer. Because to take the easy option and just stick around in California won't get Manic Meg a single column inch of positive publicity. In stark contrast, jetting back to Britain and hooking up with the king will garner the type of headlines the Duchess urgently requires if she is to have even the slightest chance of saving her dead business walking.
Many critics had predicted this moment for years. After the famous interview with Oprah Winfrey, the Netflix documentary, Harry's memoir, and repeated claims about life inside the monarchy, commentators argued that Harry and Meghan were slowly running out of options. The theory was simple. Once the major interviews were finished, the biggest royal stories had been told, and public interest began moving elsewhere. What would happen next? Some believed the couple would eventually try to rebuild connections with Britain, and now, according to royal commentators, that possibility appears to be creating serious tension behind palace walls. Reports and speculation surrounding the situation suggest that nobody inside the royal family was preparing to welcome Harry and Meghan back, as if nothing had happened. Instead, the atmosphere was reportedly shaped by negotiations, conditions, and one major issue that has followed the couple for years: trust. And Queen Camilla reportedly stands near the centre of that problem.
The Duchess in particular is said to be in a state of near terror at the grim prospect of a cold as ice response from the royals and a cacophony of booing from Brits, who she seems to believe are a nation of racist slave drivers.
Spent years trashing our country, who's branded the royals a bunch of callous racists.
And he emphasised the concern that Angela Levin has actually reported here on Outspoken, that Meghan is going to use the trip to push her failing business.
Whatever people think about Camilla, royal commentators have repeatedly claimed that she remains deeply cautious about Harry and Meghan. The relationship between Harry and Camilla has been especially strained since the release of Spare, where Harry discussed private family matters and made several controversial claims about his stepmother. That history matters, because according to reports surrounding Harry's previous visit to London after King Charles's cancer diagnosis, even the smallest details appeared to send a message. Harry reportedly arrived at Clarence House for a brief meeting with his father, but rather than moving through the property with the informal access normally associated with close family members, he was reportedly required to enter through the main security entrance. That meant going through normal security procedures. No quiet entrance, no special treatment, no attempt to make the visit feel like everything had returned to normal. To critics, the symbolism was impossible to ignore. Harry may still be the king's son, but some commentators argued that he was being treated more like a visitor than a trusted member of the royal inner circle.
Talks to Queen Camilla. He's friends with the princesses Beatrice and Eugenie, and just a few weeks ago was pictured partying with Edo, Beatrice's hubby. And that's a whole other story, but she was there too. So he has direct sources from within the royal family who are telling him, no, we don't trust Meghan, no, we don't want her back, and are even comparing Prince Harry to Brooklyn Beckham.
He said, no. Camilla said you can't come through this way. She made him go through the security doors at the front to check for phones or recording devices, because she doesn't trust him an inch. And if you remember, she also insisted on sitting there throughout his meeting with the king to make sure he didn't leak anything.
And that is where this story becomes much bigger than one uncomfortable entrance, because trust inside the monarchy is not simply about personal feelings. The royal family operates around private conversations, confidential schedules, security arrangements, and sensitive information. Once that trust is damaged, rebuilding it can become incredibly difficult. Harry and Meghan's supporters would argue that the couple had every right to discuss their experiences and defend themselves publicly. Their critics, however, believe those interviews and revelations created consequences that cannot simply disappear because circumstances have changed.
The idea that he thinks he's going to waltz back in and everybody's going to go, oh yay, Harry, is just a fanciful delusion on his part. But Harry and Meghan do live in delusion. It's how they've kept going, I think, this far, is that they have to delude themselves constantly as to their state in life. But they failed in Hollywood, they failed in the royal family, and they're going to try to fall back to the royals, but I just don't think that is a situation that will work at all, and they definitely will not be welcomed back.
So before Harry and Meghan could even think about rebuilding their position in Britain, there was reportedly a much bigger obstacle waiting behind palace doors. And Camilla was only one part of it. According to royal commentary surrounding Harry's previous visit, Queen Camilla reportedly remained present during the entire meeting with King Charles. Critics saw that as another sign that trust had become one of the biggest problems between Harry and senior members of the royal family. Whether every detail of those reports is accurate remains disputed, but the message being pushed by palace observers is clear. Private access is no longer something Harry can automatically expect. Then there is Prince William. William has handled the situation very differently. No interviews, no dramatic public statements, no long explanation about where he stands. Instead, royal commentators have focused on his actions, or, more specifically, his reported decision to keep his distance. When reports of Harry and Meghan's visit began circulating, speculation quickly appeared that William, Catherine, and their children would not be available for any reunion.
I think what would upset Prince William and the Princess of Wales is Harry and Meghan coming in general, not the offering of a royal estate, because that's happened in the past. It wouldn't surprise them. But Harry and Meghan coming in general would probably get under their skin, because Harry and Meghan have rejected this royal family. They've slandered this royal family.
The idea that Meghan's in her delusional, arrogant, self-hypnotizing state can actually believe that she is going to come back over and swan over her occasionally and just wave her broomstick, her magic wand.
Some commentators interpreted that as something much colder than another royal argument. They believe William has simply stopped engaging. That difference matters. An argument means both sides are still involved. People respond, defend themselves, and continue fighting. But complete silence sends another message entirely. Critics of Harry and Meghan argue that William's approach suggests he no longer sees any benefit in continuing the public drama. And that reported distance became even more important once claims about Meghan's requests started spreading. According to royal commentators, Meghan allegedly wanted access to a helicopter for travel connected to Birmingham and the Invictus Games. That claim immediately created controversy. The Invictus Games remain closely associated with Prince Harry and his work supporting wounded, injured, and sick service members and veterans. However, questions and criticism surrounding leadership, publicity, and the direction of the organisation have continued appearing in public discussion. So the idea that Meghan reportedly wanted royal transportation quickly became another talking point for critics.
Is that basically she wanted not to be where they've suggested, which is up in Sandringham, but actually in Windsor. She thought that would be more convenient, perhaps even using the royal helicopter to fly up to Birmingham. Oh, yes. I mean, you've got no idea what's really going on behind the scenes.
According to the claims, the request was rejected. The conversation then reportedly moved toward Windsor as a possible place to stay. That created another problem. Windsor is closely connected to William, Catherine, and their children, and royal observers argued that allowing Harry and Meghan to stay there could create exactly the kind of uncomfortable situation the family was reportedly trying to avoid. Commentators claimed William strongly opposed the idea. Instead, Sandringham was reportedly presented as another option, but according to the same commentary, Meghan was not interested. And that is where speculations surrounding the situation became even louder. Some observers pointed toward Prince Andrew's connection to the Sandringham estate and argued that the presence of photographers and constant media attention could make the location unattractive for Harry and Meghan. But that remains interpretation and not confirmed evidence of Meghan's reasoning. Still, critics immediately noticed what they considered a contradiction. Harry and Meghan have previously spoken about the pressure they experienced while working inside the royal system. They described intense media attention, restrictions, and an environment they believed was damaging to their lives. Yet according to these latest claims, they were reportedly interested in using royal resources and staying at one of the monarchy's most important residences.
It doesn't make sense at all for Harry and Meghan to just waltz back in as if nothing has happened. They can, yes, have familial relations with people, personal ones, but not dynastic ones anymore. They've left that behind. And the British public doesn't really want them. Like, nobody really wants them around. I mean, I'm not even entirely believing that even Harry's own family wants him around. So this idea that he thinks he's going to waltz back in and everybody's going to go, oh, yay, Harry, is just a fanciful delusion on his part. But Harry and Meghan do live in delusion. It's how they've kept going, I think, this far, is that they have to delude themselves constantly.
Supporters of the couple would argue there is nothing unusual about requesting security, transportation, or suitable accommodation during an important visit. Critics see something completely different. They argue that Harry and Meghan want distance from the responsibilities and restrictions of royal life while still expecting access to some of its advantages. And that argument has become one of the biggest reasons this reported visit is creating so much controversy. Because the real issue is no longer simply where Harry and Meghan stay or how they travel. It is whether the royal family believes any meaningful relationship can exist without reopening the same arguments that have followed them for years.
Behind the scenes, Sandringham, she's hoping, will slide away. And I wouldn't imagine her not holding out on this until the 11th hour. The thing is, William won't crumble. Even if the king says they have to, William won't crumble on Windsor. That is 100% for sure.
I think it's very, very, it's very dark what he's doing.
I think it's very entitled, like Prince Andrew, and I think it all stems from the Queen, who used to really just say it was a yes woman for, you know, Prince Andrew, and I think it was the same with Harry, because obviously she felt bad about him losing his mother, so I think he was mollycoddled by the Queen.
I think what you're getting at is, if you remember the royal family, you're very privileged. You got this incredible status. You've got instant wealth. You never have to worry about money, you live in palaces. Now, you need an intellect to be able to deal with that. And if you're dumb and thick, like Harry and
Andrew.
William's a clever guy. Harry and Andrew, they're both, thick as mince.
The criticism surrounding Prince Harry is not always driven by hatred, and that distinction is important. Many people watched him grow up under intense public attention, saw him experience personal loss at a young age, and followed his journey from a popular royal figure to one of the monarchy's most controversial members. For some long-time royal watchers, the strongest emotion appears to be disappointment. They remember the version of Harry who once seemed comfortable standing beside William, supporting royal causes and representing the monarchy around the world. Now, critics argue that years of public disputes and damaged relationships have completely changed his position inside the family. And this week, Piers Morgan added another controversial comparison to the conversation. Morgan compared Harry's situation with the royal family to Brooklyn Beckham's reported tensions with the Beckham family. His argument was that both men, through personal choices and strained relationships, had allegedly reached a point where their families no longer relied on them in the same way. It was a sharp comparison, and it quickly attracted attention. Morgan claimed his view was influenced by conversations with people connected to royal circles, including individuals close to Queen Camilla and Princess Beatrice. According to his description, the mood surrounding Harry's reported visit was not explosive anger. It was weariness. That word changes the entire tone of the situation. Anger can disappear. Arguments can cool down. Families can sometimes repair relationships after major disagreements. But exhaustion suggests people may no longer have the energy or desire to keep repeating the same conflict. Some commentators have also used stronger language when discussing Meghan Markle, describing her current position as increasingly desperate. That characterization is an opinion, not an established fact, but critics argue that Meghan and Harry still benefit commercially from their connection to the royal family.
Harry is a prince. Big deal. He made it known he doesn't want to be royal. Well, he wants to be royal. He doesn't want to fulfill the duties of a royal, except as and when it suits him.
If you're the royal family, and I know this for a fact from talking to people close to them, right? There's a lot of wariness about this, right? They don't trust them, period. They just don't trust them. I mean, Harry to them is like Brooklyn Beckham is to the Beckhams now.
She doesn't get away, and she hasn't got away, either privately or publicly, because not only has the royal family held its line very firmly, but the public have got fed up of her as well. I know people don't like to accept it, but the technique of giving them enough rope to hang themselves with has actually worked very effectively.
They point toward media projects, business ventures, and public appearances that continue attracting attention, partly because of their royal history. From that perspective, critics question whether a return to Britain would truly be about repairing family relationships, or whether renewed royal attention could also help their public image. Supporters strongly reject that interpretation and argue that Harry and Meghan remain public figures who are allowed to build businesses, support causes, and discuss their experiences. But the debate became even more intense after another story involving Harry started receiving attention. Reports claimed Harry had made a £1.1 million donation connected to a children's charity. The donation was initially described in some coverage as a personal contribution from Harry himself. That detail mattered because it created the impression that Harry had directly provided a significant amount of his own money, but questions were later raised about the reported source of the funds. According to journalists examining publicly available charity records, the money may have come through an outside charitable foundation rather than directly from Harry's personal finances.
The last one was that Netflix party, wasn't it?
And desperate. To your point, Piers, desperate equals dangerous.
Correct.
And Piers is now advocating for their titles to be stripped. And what I thought was really interesting here is Robert Jobson, who you know is someone who appears here on Outspoken, and I have described him as the journalist closest to King Charles, played down the significance of what a meeting would actually mean.
They'll just get some deal and it'll end up like the Spotify or Netflix deal. It'll end up like a load of rubbish. So they'll get a little spike and then it'll just go drop
Well,
off.
I don't think it'll be a deal. I think she's hoping it might trigger some sales of As Ever product.
A little bit.
As Ever. More than that, as global interest in them plummets, the scheming Sussex pair know that massaging their connection to the most famous family on earth will get people talking about them again. And in Meghan's mixed up mind, when you're in the news, you're in the money. And boy, oh boy, do the desperate Duchess and her petulant prince need money. Fast.
Today I am showing you explosive proof of how the BBC lied to me. That is our national broadcaster that is paid for by us. And they lied to protect Harry. They lied to try and rehabilitate his image.
That immediately created another controversy. The issue was not whether money had reached a charitable cause. Supporting organisations that help children remains valuable regardless of the surrounding royal drama. The real question was how the donation had been presented to the public. If the contribution came through another foundation, critics argued that describing it simply as Harry personally donating £1.1 million could create a misleading impression. Attention then turned toward the BBC. According to reports, the broadcaster had previously confirmed that the contribution was personal when journalists asked about the donation. But after public records were examined and questions were raised, the BBC reportedly acknowledged that the original description required clarification. And suddenly, what appeared to be a straightforward story about charitable giving became another debate about transparency, media reporting, and whether the public had been given the full picture. Even the exact size of the reported donation became part of the debate. Critics questioned why the figure was £1.1 million rather than a simple round number, with some suggesting that an amount above 1 million creates stronger headlines across international media markets. That interpretation remains speculation, but it shows how deeply suspicious the conversation surrounding Harry and Meghan has become. Almost every announcement is now examined for timing, presentation, and possible public relations value.
It is an unmitigated disaster, if you wanted to put it into brutal terms. I can't imagine why anybody other than a bit of free publicity would want to hook up with this ex-royal and cable TV actress. You know, there's nothing to be gained other than a bit of free publicity. Of course, as I said, she thrives on this.
£0.1 million is a strange amount of money. That jumped out to me straight away. I've previously worked at a charity. I've had countless celebrities use charities to rehabilitate their images, or their image rather. So £1.1 million, that is a donation that will guarantee you headlines. It's over £1 million. It also means that when it's translated into other currencies, it will still be, by and large, for a lot of currencies, over £1 million. So those headlines go viral.
The timing was especially important because questions were already growing around Meghan's entertainment projects and business ventures. Reports about changes in Meghan's relationship with Netflix created another wave of commentary, while the performance of her lifestyle programming became a major talking point among critics. Some reports claimed her cooking and lifestyle series ranked far below major titles on the platform, including Suits, the television show that originally made Meghan famous. For critics, the comparison was impossible to ignore. Years after leaving acting behind and becoming one of the most recognised women in the world, Meghan's old television series was reportedly attracting more attention than some of her newer projects. But even that controversy was quickly overshadowed by another claim involving the late Queen Elizabeth II. A story began circulating about the alleged existence of a private photograph showing Queen Elizabeth with Lilibet during the final months of the monarch's life. According to the claim, the picture supposedly captured a warm family moment between the Queen and her great-granddaughter. It sounds like exactly the kind of photograph that would attract enormous public interest. There is just one major problem. The existence of such a photograph has not been publicly confirmed. Royal commentators have repeatedly described the final years of Queen Elizabeth's relationship with Harry and Meghan as complicated, especially after private family disagreements became international news. Some reports even claimed the Queen became increasingly careful about private conversations and personal information. Whether every detail of those reports is accurate remains disputed. But critics argue that this history makes the alleged photograph difficult to accept without stronger evidence. If such an important image exists, why has nobody produced it? Why has there been no official confirmation? And why are people expected to accept another dramatic royal claim based almost entirely on unnamed sources and speculation? Supporters of Harry and Meghan would argue that private family photographs do not belong to the public and that the couple has no obligation to release personal images. That is a fair argument. But the mystery surrounding the alleged picture continues because trust has become the central issue in almost every story involving the Sussexes.
That there is a picture of the late Queen, Elizabeth II, with Lilibet. And not only that, she goes on to say that according to people who witnessed Lilibet and the Queen together, who she has directly spoken to, well, come on, who were those people? Harry and Meghan. Like, who else witnessed that interaction? And she says there was a lovely bond.
But critics argue that the royal connection remains one of the strongest sources of public attention surrounding them. Without new palace conflicts, family revelations, or possible reconciliation stories, the media conversation could eventually move elsewhere. That is why commentators believe this visit matters so much. The real risk may not be another argument with the royal family. It may be becoming less relevant to the public conversation. And looming over everything is Prince William's future role. If William truly believes the relationship with Harry has reached the point of no return, then the situation could change dramatically when he eventually becomes king. The limited access available today could become even more restricted. And according to critics, Harry and Meghan may understand that possibility better than anyone. And that is the biggest uncertainty hanging over this entire royal drama. If Prince William eventually becomes king while the relationship with Harry remains this damaged, critics believe there may be little room left for negotiations, special arrangements, or another attempt to rebuild trust. William has stayed publicly silent, and royal commentators continue debating what that silence really means. Some see it as temporary distance. Others believe he has already decided that protecting the monarchy from more controversy matters more than repairing the relationship with his brother. The public reaction surrounding Harry has also become part of the bigger conversation. Reports of negative responses and growing frustration suggest that years of interviews, accusations, books and media projects have changed how some people view the Sussexes. But this story is far from finished. There are still questions about Harry's relationship with King Charles, Meghan's future projects, possible royal meetings, and whether any real reconciliation can happen after so many years of public conflict. So what happens next could completely reshape this family drama. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video, share it with someone who follows celebrity news, and subscribe for more dramatic stories and commentary. And do not leave yet. The next video on your screen dives straight into another celebrity controversy you will not want to miss. Click it now for more celebrity drama, and I'll see you in the next one.